WKS radio station.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to strike down a judge's order allowing some illegal aliens to challenge their deportation to South Sudan. The emergency appeal comes after a judge found the White House violated a court order with those deportation flights. A pair of illegal immigrants wanted in a hit-and-run jet ski death of a teen Air Force recruit on a lake in Texas has now been arrested. Following back-to-back explosions, SpaceX has launched its mega rocket Starship again. This launch came last evening. However, it missed its primary objective when the spacecraft became unstable. It tumbled out of control and then broke apart. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures have turned mixed. The Dow futures are down a fraction, while the NASDAQ futures 56 points higher. More details, srnnews.com.
Is your cell phone in desperate need of replacement? You know the signs. Short battery life, so you have to have a charger on hand. Cracked screen that splinters? No. It's time to put that old phone to rest and upgrade to a new 5G Samsung Galaxy from Pure Talk. Ready? For free. Get a free 5G Samsung Galaxy with 2-day battery life, edge-to-edge display, and ultra-strong Gorilla Glass when you sign up for Pure Talk's unlimited talk, text, and 15-gig data plan for just $35 a month. Plus, it comes with mobile hotspot. Get all the data you could ever need for half the price of the big carriers on America's most dependable 5G network. Make the switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk, today. Customer service is standing by. Just dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager for your free super durable 5G Samsung Galaxy when you switch to Pure Talk. Again, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager, Pure Talk, simply smarter while.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Here is the latest news and information that impacts you. I'm Derek White. The Kansas Highway Patrol reported 7 fatalities from 4 non-DUI crashes over Memorial Day weekend. The reporting period ran from Friday evening through late Monday night. While DUI-related deaths remained at 0, the patrol emphasized safe driving and seatbelt use as critical life-saving measures during busy travel weekends. The patrol assisted 590 motorists over the weekend. U.S. Senator Jerry Moran announced the federal hiring freeze has been lifted for Council Grove Lake, allowing staff to be hired in time for summer. The lake had faced potential closure due to a staffing shortage threatening local tourism. Moran says the Army Corps of Engineers approved his exemption request, and he's urging swift hiring so families can enjoy the lake during vacation season. Council Grove Lake offers 40 miles of shoreline for tourists. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 1025.
Today will be mostly cloudy with some scattered showers and storms coming from the northwest later this afternoon and evening and lingering into tomorrow morning. Storms later this afternoon and in the evening south and west of the line from Goodland to Oakley to Great Bend have a risk not particularly high, but that an isolated cell or two could produce large hail and damaging winds. Highs today will be in the upper 50s to low 60s, winds from a south-southeast direction at 10 to 20 miles per hour, and lows tonight will be 40 to 45. Tomorrow, lingering morning showers are possible and ending rainfall totals of 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. Then clearing tomorrow afternoon will warm high temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s with light north winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow night's lows will be around 50. Then Friday through most of the weekend, high pressure will keep things dry, with the exception on Saturday and maybe some showers in Colorado, and highs in the upper 70s to middle 80s. This is meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Spring is in full swing at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Get your lawn and garden looking their best with Ultimate Fertilizer and gear up with Eco blowers and mowers for the season ahead. Tackling a project, they've got a surplus of quality lumber ready for all your building needs. And when the work's done, fire up the fun with their wide selection of grills, smokers, and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Stop by Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby. your one-stop shop for spring projects, big and small.
At FNB Bank, we know family comes first. Whether you're opening a savings account for your kids, buying a new home, or planning for the future, we're here to help every step of the way. With personalized service and flexible options, we make banking easy for your growing family. FNB Bank, serving families, strengthening communities. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 25 Chevy Silverado 1500 with 0.9% APR for 60 months plus $3,500 trade-in cash. Or choose a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max, 0.9% APR or up to over $7,800 off if you own a GMC or Buick. And don't forget, military members get an extra $750 cash allowance. It's happening now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Online at hurlchev.com.
Did you know that the average amount of hours you should run your motor before it needs new oil is 500? After every 500 hours of runtime on a motor, you should replace the oil, and Colby and Goodland Automotive is the place that has you covered with every kind of CarQuest oil you'll ever need, including farm, truck, and even irrigation oil and more. In fact, no matter what needs your motor may have, they have you covered with the top-notch CarQuest auto parts and lubricants. Extend the life of your motor with the help of Colby and Goodland Automotive, your locally owned and operated CarQuest auto parts stores.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4! It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
I am old and I am white, and I do not understand it in any way, shape, or form.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Not this again.
Yes, this again.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Covering it all from the preps.
It's an air ball in the Colby Eagles, victorious in Hugoton.
To the pros.
The cheer is hit to left. It's deep. Going back, Gurriel. It's gone. He has done it again. His second home run tonight. And the Rockies have come back to take the lead.
The Blitz is presented by Hurl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and FNB Bank. Along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work. This pitch to Doyle is sent to deep left field. Happ is going back. Happ at the wall. It's gone! Just cleared the wall in left field. A home run by Brenton Doyle. Ties the ball game here in the 7th at 2. Goes on top. It's Toppin for 3. Scored! That'll do it.
Up the bomb. McDavid down low. Nugent Hopkins out in front. They score, and it's Corey Perry.
Fly ball to deep right. It is way back and out of here. First career walk-off home run for Yelly, and it is grand.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome back inside the Morning Blitz on this May the 28th. Another overcast start to this day. But a little precipitation, at least here in Goodland. I find that to be interesting. I didn't expect that, but a little bit of moisture on the ground this morning. Not a lot. I think just a little light precip through the night. And then we'll see cooler temperatures today and tomorrow. Temperature is going to remain in the 60s, like I said, for the next, 24 to maybe 48 hours at most. And then we will springboard up into the 80s starting on Friday. and through the weekend. Have a pretty nice weekend temperature-wise. Temp's going to be in the 80s. It looks like going forward for at least the foreseeable future that I could see. So, but like I said, maybe even a chance tonight is some severe weather, so keep that in mind. Your severe weather coverage, of course, here on NWKS Radio. Make sure you stop on by not stop by, tune on in is what I should say. Tune on in, stop on by, everyone, to your favorite NWKS radio station. We'll keep you up to date with severe weather coverage here tonight. That, once again, chances of some storms coming through, even though it might be cool, could be some chances for some severe weather tonight, so be aware of that. As always, want to be part of the Morning Blitz? Would love to hear from you on the FNB Bank text line at 785-899-2222. The number be part of the Morning Blitz each and every day. Get your thoughts, your comments, your questions, opinions. You just let me know and hit us up on the FB Bank text line. Coming up on today's program, we will be talking with Michael Bruntz of Huskers 24/7 Sports. He'll be stopping by to talk about Nebraska's improbable run through the Big Ten baseball tournament and their look ahead to regional play starting on Friday in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, against the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll get some thoughts on that and more with Michael Bruntz coming up in our second segment. We will get to a losing night for the Royals and the Rockies, an update from the NBA and NHL playoffs, and also a new Ring of Honor, new Ring of Fame entry for the Denver Broncos. Some news on that coming up in segment 3. And also one of my favorite times of the year throughout my entire life coming up here in the walk-off. We'll get to that. We will also be talking the all-GWAC baseball team, which I officially and finally got my hands on last night. Shout out to Adam Kadavy, voice of the Scott City Beavers, for being kind of my own personal information guy. He was able to get me that. So we will discuss that coming up here in just a little bit. But before all that, want to dive in with an update from State Golf. State Golf, of course, going on around the state. And like I mentioned yesterday, multiple area teams and area golfers competing at one of 3 different state tournaments. Once again, 3A taking place in Garden City at Buffalo Dunes, 2A taking place in McPherson at Turkey Creek Golf Course, and the 1A golf tournament taking place down at Mariah Hills Golf Course in Dodge City. So plenty of golf going on yesterday, and the results are in from yesterday. And of course, they've changed. Obviously, if I can get this started right here. There we go. So anyway, going through this once again. So the ruling was, once more, the top 6 teams qualify for day 2 and avoid being cut after day 1. And then I think it's whatever golfers bring it up to 54 is the total. And I think if there are ties, then you might have 55. And so thank goodness for Keisha. They have been able to go through and put these into bracket form for us all yesterday. Overall, a solid showing from area schools. I don't want to say it was a fantastic showing. 2 teams remain standing. One of them is the Goodland Cowboys. They just made the cut, coming in 6th place, or sitting in 6th place currently after a round 1 score of 348. That puts them behind Wichita Collegiate and Wichita Trinity Academy, who sit at 315 and 316 respectively in 1st and 2nd. Then Sabetha, Marysville, Wellsville, and then Goodland sitting in the 6th spot. The Cowboys have just not had despite having solid showings from their golfers, no one has been able to crack even the top. Let's see, Goodland's top golfers, Barrett Schlosser, he's tied for 34th with an 84. So no one shot in the upper 70s, which I think really hurt the Cowboys there. But maybe today they're able to get a little better feel for the course. Maybe today is a little bit better second round down there in Garden City from the Cowboys' perspective. But like I mentioned, sitting currently in 6th place in the 3A state tournament down there in Garden City. Shout out to Scott City's own Jackson Rumford. He is in the top 4 currently with a 73. Had a really good first round. Some other golfers that have been playing good golf throughout the year, including like Lakin's Noah Richter sitting and tied for 11th with a 76. some guys that the Goodland Cowboys and Colby Eagles played a lot. Speaking of Colby, Cade Youngman did not make the cut after day number 1. So his tournament is over after just one round. But Goodland remains in the hunt at this point in time, although be it in 6th place, they will need to have a very impressive round 2 in order to try and find their way on the podium there at the 3A State Golf Tournament. Probably the most exciting classification for our region is 2A, where you find the Hoxie Indians in the thick of it. They are currently in 3rd at the 2A State Golf Tournament there in McPherson at Turkey Creek. The Indians shooting at 322, a combined score in the first round, highlighted by Noah Dowell, who is currently sitting atop the leaderboard in first place after a first round and phenomenal 68 there for Noah Dowell of Hoxie. So he is sitting at the top of the leaderboard and leading the Indians currently to a 3rd place spot. The thing is, though, for Hoxie, the next best golfer is Sam Watkins, sitting there tied for 14th. And then you got to go further down here to about the 43rd spot before you find Charlie Foote, who is still in the mix. But once again, they need a little bit more from some of their other golfers. Really good showing from Oakley's golfers. 2 guys made it into the state tournament, and 2 remain alive in the hunt. Easton Fink, who's had a great season, continues that he is in 2nd place with a 72 at this point in time. So Oakley's Easton Fink sitting in 2nd place individually. Manuel Mancia sitting tied for 40th with an 86 at this point in time. But Oakley, once again, those are 2 individual golfers. But Oakley's, both those guys are there. Shout out to Syracuse, just down the road from us here in Goodland. They sit atop the 2A leaderboard with a 301. Brody Keller shot a 74. Charlie Keller is shooting a 75. And Brock Keller, the Keller boys, leading them all with 76 and better. Not to mention Johnny Taveldi tied for 6. I mean, they got 4 guys in the top 6, tied for the top 6 or better. So they're really having a good showing. As Syracuse, they sit atop the leaderboard with a 301, then Salinas Sacred Heart with a 311, Hoxie with the 322. So they are once again still in the thick of it. I should also shout out just on the outskirts of our reach, Hill City sitting in 5th place with a 334. Hill City in the top 5 of this 2A state tournament there over in McPherson. So best of luck. Like I said, a lot of good Western Kansas appeal in that 2A leaderboard with Syracuse, Hoxie, and Hill City in the top 5 spots of that 2A race. So we'll see how it all finishes out. But Noah Dowell doing a Noah Dowell and Easton Fink leading the scoreboard at this point in time individually in the 2A tournament. And then in 1A, there were 3 teams that went into the state tournament: Rawlins County, Decatur Community, and Greeley County. But none of the teams are going to qualify for day number 2. They did not make the cut for day number 2. Now, there are some individuals that are still alive in the hunt, including Rawlins County's Jeb Castens. He currently sits tied for 13th with an 83 after the first round. A little bit further down the scoreboard, you find tied for 25th Braxton Mangan, who is sitting in 87th. Man, I hope I didn't skip. Oh, and tied for 17th before that, just missed him, was Lincoln Schaefer. He sits at 85th, tied for 17th with an 85. So a couple of guys inside the top 25 with 2 from Greeley County. And of course, Jeb Castens from Rawlins County has been a very consistent golfer for the Buffaloes throughout his career. And then you get down a little bit further, a couple of guys from Decatur Community. Cohen Owen, I believe, is how you say his last name. He's tied for 32nd with teammate Gage Willoughby. They both shot 91s yesterday. They're currently sitting tied for 32nd. So those 2 gentlemen made it from Decatur Community. Lincoln Schaefer and Braxton Mangan made it from Greeley County for day number 2. And Jeb Castens making the cut as well there in day number 2 for Rawlins County. But past that, no other team is represented in the 1A state tournament. So no team made the cut there in 1A. But like I said, you still got Hoxie on the Hoxie on the board, Hill City, if you want to consider that, just a little bit outside of our reach. And then Goodland in the 3A tournament. Those teams are still alive in the hunt. And like I said, I think the most entertaining tournament to watch probably is going to be that 2A here in day number 2. Can Hoxie make a move up to finish in the top 2 or even win the thing. We'll see. 21 strokes is not a massive amount to overcome if you can get a little bit of help from the teams in front of you and you have a good day. And right now, they said they have the best. It's all about some of the bottom guys bringing up the rear. That's going to be the biggest thing. The guys that struggled in day 1 are going to need to pick it up in order to do that. But like I said, Noah Dow having a phenomenal first round. Easton Fink, a very good round as well from Oakley. Those 2 guys certainly to watch in the 2A tournament. Goodland, once again, I'll go through these guys real quick. Like I said, Goodland did make the cut as a team, is sitting in 6th place with a 348. Individually, Barrett Schlosser leading the way with an 84, sitting currently tied for 34th. Trent Sheldon tied for 36 with an 85. Blair Lennon tied for 39th with an 86 as well. A little bit further down here, Braylon Mole, a 93, currently sitting in 49th place. And then Luke Thomas and Trayton Haas sitting in 50, just barely making the cut line, 55, and tied for 55 with 104s. That's where the Goodland Cowboys sit. So once again, it's everybody. If the Cowboys are going to move up from that 6th spot into the top 4 or 5, they're going to need everybody to have a better second round. There is no doubt about it here in day number 2, which once again, all that gets underway today at those respected golf courses. That is all, I believe, set to start. Depending on what tournament you're at. I know 3A is set to start at 9:30, and then 1A and 2A will get underway at 9 o'clock. And I believe those are all Central times. So here within the next hour, they will be starting those second and final rounds of the state golf around the state. So best luck to all the athletes competing today. All right, let's transition here in segment number 2. And want to get to the 2025 all GWAC baseball teams. Every year, I struggle to find the full, complete list of the. I always struggle to find that. Luckily, good friend Adam Kadavi is able to help us out here on the Morning Blitz. He was able to get me the all GWAC, all league teams. There were 2 Goodland Cowboys honored and 4 Colby Eagles, for those who were curious for our close listening region. Goodland had Kaysen Cedarstrom was a first team selection, was the GWAC player of the year. Now, I did know about that. I had seen it at the graduation party that he had been honored as the GWAC player of the year, but the tournament had not gotten completely over yet, so didn't want to bring that up. But I did know that Kaysen Cedarstrom was the GWAC player of the year. More on that in just a minute. And then teammate Braylon Mole was an honorable mention selection. And then Colby, 4 selections. You had Braxton Withington. He was a first-team selection, was the junior pitcher. And Max Kirstenbrock, the senior outfielder, was a first-team selection as well for Colby. And then 2 honorable mention players, Braden Foss, who played at the shortstop spot infield, the senior getting an honorable mention selection. And then sophomore Kaysen Stramel was a selection as well there in the honorable mention. So just a few quick thoughts on this. First, from the Goodland perspective, Braylon Mole had a phenomenal year defensively and was pretty darn good on the bump this year. In order to get an honorable mention spot, he was really good in those areas because hitting wise it's never really been his strong suit. He has really struggled with the bat. I don't even know if he batted over 200 when the season was over, but his defense, filling in at multiple spots, whether it be outfield or shortstop or wherever they needed him. I don't even know. He may even caught a little bit too. But his utility ability, that's kind of an interesting deal. The ability of playing the utility spot, that's even better. I think got Braylon Mole in the honorable mention selection, and his ability to pitch in relief, I think, really got him that spot. His hitting was not great this year. It hasn't been great many years, but like I said, his ability to play great defense and pitch got him an honorable mention selection. And Kaysen Cedarstrom, this was probably a very highly debated topic, I would guess. Once again, I don't know. I'm not there in those meetings at the end of the season, but I would guess that was a highly debated topic between Kaysen Cedarstrom and Keegan Johnson and who knows, maybe even Trace Copper and Max Kirstenbrock. I mean, you would, for some reason, I would think those guys, even Braxton Withington, those guys all were in the race for GWAC Player of the Year. I would say probably my top 2, My top two would probably be Case and Cedarstrom along with Keegan Johnson at Holcomb. Those are probably my two top guys I would have had the race. I always look at it this way. The GWAC Player of the Year is kind of like, MVP. And I have always said most valuable player. If you were to take that player off of your team and they were not, let's just say they just vanished and they were gone. They never existed on your team. What would your team look like? How good would they be? And if you take Case and Cedarstrom off of the Goodland Cowboys, I don't know. The Cowboys had a 6-win improvement. I don't know if they even have a 6-win improvement this year. He's been a very consistent player for Goodland most of his career, pretty much his entire career, honestly. Whether it was, as a younger guy in his freshman and sophomore days of just kind of being a guy who threw strikes on the mound to becoming a way more consistent piece with the bat later on in his junior and senior campaigns, and then, developing his pitches later on as well. He's just been such a consistent player for the Goodland Cowboys. And so him earning GWAC Player of the Year is a great honor for him. But I easily could have seen it go to other people, including Keegan Johnson, who I saw was a phenomenal guy on the base paths, hit the ball well, pitched great, was kind of a closer for Holcomb. So I would have not been surprised if he probably would have been my number two. But in its entirety, the first team selection is his first team is Case and Cedarstrom, Jared and Schultz, Keegan Johnson, Trace Copper. So once again, Kaysen of Goodland, Jared and Schultz, and Keegan Johnson of Holcomb. Also, Chasen Costner, the freshman from Holcomb, getting on the first team, as was senior Ethan Zapata. So Holcomb with a lot of selections. Cimarron had two. Breck Averhoff, the senior pitcher, he was phenomenal this year. He deserved that. And Trace Copper, who I think one of the best multi-sport athletes in the GWAC that probably didn't get as much love as he deserved over the course of his career. I think he was a phenomenal athlete, even though the wins may have not shown in the win-loss column for Cimarron during his tenure. Mention, of course, Braxton Withington and Max Kirstenbrock of Colby. Emilio Contreras of Scott City, the junior, making a first-team selection as well there for the All-GWAC, with once again Case and Cedarstrom being the Player of the Year. Honorable mention, Alex Hosteller of Ulysses, Easton Eisenhower of Scott City, Braden Foss of Colby. One of the great names in the GWAC, graduating Adonis Batman of Cimarron, Avery Radke of Scott City, Eloy Ruelas of Scott City, Braylon Mole of Goodland, Kaysen Stramel of Colby, and Tobias Grubbs of Hugoton were on the honorable mention team for all league GWAC baseball. So congratulations to all those gentlemen on a phenomenal season. Even though no team made it to the state tournament this year, pretty competitive year this year in the GWAC. I thought it was overall. You look at the standings, it was very even. I thought you saw a lot of teams beating up on other teams throughout the course of the season. But once again, Case and Cedarstrom of Goodland, your GWAC Player of the Year, and that completes the sweep to an extent. On the boys' sports, I saw this post. Shout out, I believe, to Shannon Cure, who posted this, because I honestly just hadn't put it all together. That's why I appreciate people posting this stuff. But if you look at what a great year it was for Goodland High School Cowboy athletics, you had Lincoln Cure, who was the GWAC football and had a great year there. And track and field had a phenomenal year. Brady Brumbaugh was the GWAC Player of the Year in basketball, and Case and Cedarstrom the GWAC Player of the Year in baseball. That is a really impressive showing. Really impressive showing. So just phenomenal individual performances from those three gentlemen there in across four different sports: football, basketball, track and field, and baseball. Highly impressive from those guys for sure. Very, very cool. But once again, that's something I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see that. We may not see that again for a very long time, to see three guys from the same school, particularly to get that done. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. That's really, really unique to see. The sad part is, out of all that, there was not a single GWAC title though. There was not a GWAC title, and I think that's a little bit of in my mind, that's probably the only, if you want to call it a black eye, is that there was never a GWAC title. I think this year there was a great opportunity to win a GWAC title in basketball, And Cowboys just couldn't get it done. Credit to Holcomb with a couple of very big-time wins over the Cowboys this year. But overall and individually, there's some just great individual performances from Goodland Cowboy Athletics this past school year. Really cool. And very excited to see what they all do. I know Kaysen's not going to go. As far as I know, Kaysen is not going to go continue his career in baseball, but we all know what Lincoln's going to be off and doing here. And Brady, of course, going off to play basketball at Barton, where once again, I think if he stays the course and stays the path, we'll be watching him somewhere on our television sets at some point in time playing some big time basketball. I would think if he stays on the course that he's on. So very, very cool year for Goodland Cowboy Athletics. Once again, 3 GWAC players of the years. Once again, Lincoln Cure, track and football. And then, of course, you've got Brady Brumbaugh there in basketball and Kaysen Cedarstrom in baseball. Pretty darn cool. All right, there you go. The all GWAC baseball teams. And congratulations to all the gentlemen from all the schools that made it this year. It's a great honor, and especially in a really good league to get honored in either the honorable mention or the first team. It's a big time honor. All right, let's get to our first timeout. When we come back, we're going to shift gears. College baseball is in full swing with regionals coming up here starting on Friday around the nation. One of the teams that got in by the skin of their teeth thanks to a late postseason run was the Nebraska Cornhusker baseball team. Michael Bruntz, our good friend from Husker 24/7, is going to join us next. Stick around. This is the Morning Blitz.
Drips, clanks, chills, or swelters? Call the team that's been fixing it all since before your grandpa had a thermostat. McClure's Plumbing and Heating in downtown Goodland has been keeping things flowing and blowing for 95 years and counting. From pesky leaks to full-blown HVAC heroics, they're your hometown pros with nearly a century of know-how. Call McClure's Plumbing and Heating at 890-2208. That's 890-2208. And make your home comfy again, the old school way. Done right.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Wednesday, May 28th. On the overnight last night, July corn unchanged at $4.59.5. September up a quarter at $4.34. December up a half cent at $4.47. March corn up a half cent at $4.61 3/4. July soybeans down 4 cents on the overnight at $10.58.5. August down 3 3/4 at $10.54 1/4. September down 4 cents at $10.38. November beans down 4 1/2 at $10.46 1/4. Chicago wheat, the July contract higher 3 3/4 at $5.32 1/4. September up 3 1/2 at $5.47 3/4. December up 3 1/2 at $5.71. March soft wheat up 2 3/4 at $5.91 1/2. Kansas City wheat, the July contract higher 5 1/4 at $5.29 3/4. September up 4 3/4 at $5.44 1/4. December up 4 1/2 at $5.67. March up 4 1/4 at $5.86 1/4. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $9 at 42,401. The S&P up $4 at 5,938. The Nasdaq up 49 at 21,506. The gold higher at $10 an ounce at 3,309. Crude oil up 86 cents a barrel at $61.75. If you have any questions about marketing grain, or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call. John Hankey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Saluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades. Bugs can wreak havoc on post-harvest stored grains. A strong control plan helps stop insects before they start. At Central Life Sciences, we believe in making every kernel count towards your profits. That's why Gravista Insecticide, a grain protectant, features a synergized insecticide with an insect growth regulator, now available in a convenient quart size, designed for empty bin treatments to help you store smart and make every kernel count. Contact Maya Butler at bugfreegrains.com to learn more.
Farmers and ranchers, are you looking to sell your equipment at auction for zero fees and zero commissions? Well, then you need to check out Hayden Outdoors' new online equipment auction platform. You can list your equipment in our monthly online auctions using our easy-to-use platform, and you don't pay any fees or commissions. Visit HaydenOutdoors.com to learn more. That's HaydenOutdoors.com.
This is Danny Zweigert with the Schooler Company. Since your crops are the most essential part of the global supply chain, let us help be your strategic marketing partner. Whether it's an extra truck at harvest, marketing your on-farm storage, or asking us about our unique risk management solutions, we have the tools to help you navigate these ever-changing markets. We are partners in helping your operation run as smooth as possible, and our local merchandisers are deeply knowledgeable about supply and demand and the current market movements. So give Schooler a call today at 785-890-3639.
All the sports you love, all in one place.
Ooh, this will come in handy.
This is the Morning Blitz.
Once again, we'll get you an update what happened last night in baseball with the Royals and the Rockies. Spoiler, it was losses for both. And also an update on what's a new Bronco will be entered into their Ring of Honor or Ring of Fame coming up here during the 2025 season. We'll get to that coming up here in segment number 3. By the way, I don't know if anybody else is following along on the college football playoff, but the college football playoff and what's all going on with Greg Sankey down at the SEC meetings and things like that. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with the future of college football. Very interesting stuff. You might want to check that out as this week progresses on. Let's shift gears. Like I said, college baseball is actually the focus now, minus the Women's College World Series, which, by the way, gets going. Is that here today or tomorrow? I think it's Friday. Friday is when that gets going, I believe. The Women's College World Series down in Oklahoma City. And that will be intriguing to watch. That's always great, entertaining stuff. But it was an improbable run for the Nebraska baseball team that made it all the way to the Big Ten tournament finals and won it all, despite being the 8th seed, lowest seed to ever do that in the Big Ten tournament's history. But that was what they needed in order to continue their season. They get it done. And Michael Brent's kind enough to join us and discuss more about that great run for Nebraska baseball. Michael, how was the Memorial Day weekend for you guys?
Busy, a lot of baseball. So just yeah, it was no time off, I guess.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked, I guess. But you are out there covering Husker baseball and, of course, Nebraska baseball making a improbable run to capture their second straight Big Ten baseball tournament championship. What was going through your mind in game number 1 back on Tuesday of last week when the ball was dropped by the right fielder for Michigan State to extend the Husker season?
Yeah, I mean, it's the butterfly effect of an error like that is pretty crazy. But, it's you kind of look at the totality of the season for Nebraska. I mean, they were not a team that got a lot of those types of, 3 weeks into the season, you lose your Friday night starter and preseason All-American. You have probably your best reliever take a 106 mile an hour ball right off the face. So, I guess you could, one school of thought is they're kind of due for something like that. And then, to their credit, they kind of ran with the opportunity. I mean, they beat 2 really good teams, in Oregon and UCLA to win the title. Even the guy Jurwa for Michigan State, I mean, he was the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year. So a little bit different feeling than last year's group, and they had to win it to get in, and they did that. So I don't know if you send that right fielder for Michigan State like a little fruit basket or something in the mail, but he certainly played a role in Nebraska's season continuing for sure.
In your opinion, what is it about this baseball program and playing its best right now in the month of May, kind of when it matters most, because either like this year, either you win or you don't continue your season, or like last year, they might have been on the fringe of making it if they didn't win that tournament last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, you start winning a couple games, and the crowds kind of grow. I think they only had a few thousand on Tuesday night, and then for Saturday it was up closer to 8,500, something like that. And they had close to 15,000 on Sunday. So it's kind of one of those things where it almost kind of gathers like a wave. And, this team, I think, for a long time was kind of trying to figure out its identity. It was a team that started the season ranked at, by D1 baseball. They struggled out of the gates, had a really kind of tough midseason trip to California and had to fight back just to get into the tournament. And it's just a group that finally, I think, when the calendar turned to May and they had to win a bunch of series just to get to Omaha to the Big Ten tournament, they were able to do that. So, I think definitely, as much as opposing coaches don't want to say this, I mean, I do think, playing that tournament in Omaha is a tremendous advantage for Nebraska, especially if they're able to win a game or two early on and kind of start that momentum.
Michael Bruntz is our guest from Huskers 24/7 Sports, talking Nebraska baseball, who made an improbable run as the 8th seed to capture a Big Ten tournament championship for the second consecutive year. What does it say about Will Bolt, head coach for the Nebraska baseball team, on what he's able to do to get his team to play its best here at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there was, at times some frustration that they weren't able to kind of get things rolling. I mean, right now Nebraska is currently on its longest winning streak of the year, and it's 5 games. I mean, it's that just kind of tells you that, this is a team that, the lows were never that low, the highs were never that high. And I think that was a little bit of the frustration was, how do you kind of get things figured out? And, losing McConaughey early on, I think that kind of forced a lot of chair shuffling on the weekend rotation and trying to figure out who could actually do it. And, Ty Horn comes out and throws 8 shutout innings against UCLA on Sunday. And, in the middle of March, he was a guy that, almost lost his spot in the weekend rotation just because he just wasn't putting it together yet. So I think he, more than a lot of his other teams at Nebraska, had to push a lot of the buttons and kind of figure out how to get this team going. In the middle of that California trip, he took on a much bigger role with the offense very quietly. I think you saw guys kind of respond to that. So, I mean, I think you could make a pretty easy case that this is probably his best coaching job at Nebraska in getting this team to the tournament, because it really, middle of March felt like they were pretty dead on the vine when they were sitting there, I think 2-7 in conference play coming back from that trip to California.
How much was, this year's struggles early on based upon, like you mentioned, that trip to California, just kind of how hard they tried to schedule to get their RPI up?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think they have 8 quad 1 wins, and, they have wins over Vanderbilt, Oregon State, and UCLA. And they've actually played pretty well against tough competition. And I think late in the season, you probably see a little bit of benefit of that. But, I do think, it's not as simple as just saying, well, they had some injuries. But, I mean, Mason McConaughey, they had to cover or find a way to cover about 100 innings that they were missing with him being out. And, Nebraska, I think, only won, 2 Friday nights in Big Ten play this year. I mean, that just kind of shows you that they really kind of needed to adjust on the fly. And, the Big Ten didn't do them a ton of help with having to go to Los Angeles for back-to-back weekends. And, they just kind of had to figure things out. So, the approach for Will Bolt has always been like, look, they're going to schedule tough, and that's what you kind of have to do, and you have to win those games to give yourself a chance to be in the mix to potentially host, which I know is a goal of theirs. But there's probably some benefit in May to having played some of those early season games against pretty tough competition.
We're visiting with Michael Bruntz of Huskers 24/7 Sports, talking Nebraska baseball here on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. I don't know about you, but I was kind of surprised at the draw that they got. I figured Nebraska would be going to Arkansas or going to Texas or something like that, and they get to go out to the East Coast to Chapel Hill. Your thoughts on the draw?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's neither North Carolina nor Oklahoma are kind of the traditional power teams that like Nebraska's draw last year in the regional Stillwater was really bad because, this is not a Nebraska team that's going to stand in there and just slug with teams. They're going to have to win 6-4. They're going to have to, keep it low scoring. And, Oklahoma's got a great arm in Witherspoon, both Witherspoons, I guess, but Kyson Witherspoon in particular. North Carolina pitches it extremely well. I mean, both of those teams have team ERAs around 4. So they're going to see some good arms again. I think this is a group, again, that's kind of up to the challenge, just given who they've played, this year already. But, it felt like a draw that, was probably okay for Nebraska. I mean, when you kind of steal a bid and, you make the tournament that way, sometimes you get a pretty bad draw. But I mean, I think this is a region that Nebraska at least has a puncher's chance in, which I think if they were having to play just really high-powered offenses, I think that would be a bit of a challenge there.
When you look at what this team is doing right now, what is a reason or two of optimism that they could possibly, play for this regional title? Not saying they're going to win the region, but possibly be hanging around late into maybe, Sunday or Monday, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, you look at kind of the route into the Big Ten title. Ty Horn had his best outing as a Husker on Sunday. Jackson Brockett, who's kind of been through it, comes out and throws really well on Saturday to help get Nebraska through. I think that's kind of been what's helped Nebraska down the stretch, is you finally have seen these pitchers that were struggling early in the year kind of find themselves a little bit. And, even at the plate, Nebraska is not a team, everybody knows Gabe Swanson kind of, got hot last year, but this year's group, it's been a lot more of kind of a 1-9 grind in the lineup. And that's what you kind of have to do to beat tough pitching, is you have to work counts. You have to drive up pitch counts. And I think this offense has done a nice job of that down the stretch. I mean, that was really kind of, I think the key to their success in Omaha was their ability to do that. So they'll have to do it again in the tournament. But, the one reason that this group was ranked to start the year was you had so many guys coming back from last year's team. And I think there was probably a little bit of a benefit of, having gone to the NCAA tournament last year, gotten to experience what that's like. And I think you're going to see a little less of kind of the wide-eyed odd stuff this year of getting into the tournament. I mean, I think guys are pretty clear-headed about what's in front of them this weekend.
You've mentioned it earlier in our conversation today about the pitching staff and having to find those 100 innings, to cover for McConaughey, the starter. And do you feel like the pitching staff has kind of found itself and has enough pieces or depth to make a postseason run? Or do you still feel like they're going to need some other guys that maybe they haven't been talked about enough to step up even more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, leaning on a lot of the guys that you've seen the last week. It's going to be Timmerman. It's going to be Broderick at the back end of the bullpen throwing multiple innings. Drew Christo. You might have to have a guy or two come in and give you a really big performance. But, this time of year, it's kind of like, you know who you can trust to go in there and throw strikes in tough situations. And I think that's more of what's going to have to happen for Nebraska. You're going to need to lean on those guys a little bit more. It's do or die time. And, if you have to have Broderick come back and throw twice, in the regional, you have to do that. Same with Christo. And, I think towards the end of the season, they've kind of narrowed down, who's kind of in that trust tree. And I think those are the guys that they're going to really rely upon as they go through the weekend.
It's really been a successful spring sports season for Nebraska, not only the baseball team making a run, but the women making it all the way in softball to the super regionals, and they come up a little bit short. Do you feel like that was a letdown that they didn't make to the College World Series? Or do you feel like maybe this year was a little bit past what you thought? What were your thoughts on just Nebraska softball quickly?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good season for them. I mean, I think there were a lot of expectations with Jordy Ball coming back, and I think you saw why she's, in my opinion, the best player in college softball right now. I think they put together a pretty good team around her. And, there was probably going to be some benefit going into next season from the experience they have this year. I mean, they had Tennessee on the ropes, and just came up short. And you know how it is in college sports now. The portal is so key, and I would imagine that Nebraska's run probably opened a few eyes around the country about the possibilities that are in Lincoln right now. So we'll see if they can kind of reload and. With having Jordy back, kind of get to that next step. But it always seemed like a team to me that wasn't just happy to be there. I think there's, some disappointment over there with the way the season ended, because I think they felt like they were a Women's College World Series team. But it's back to the drawing board, and maybe you can find a little bit more talent to bring onto the roster and make another run next year.
Are you heading to Chapel Hill, or are you going to be taking that in from the seat of your couch?
Yeah, I'll be on the couch. That's a little bit closer to Lincoln. I might have considered it, but 18, 19 hours in the car to get to a regional is probably a tall ask on short notice. So maybe if they shock the world and get to the Supers, might have to make that happen though.
That'll be all right. The bathroom and everything, beverages are closer anyway, so it'll be a little bit more relaxing.
That's true. I started doing the math, and I think it's you pass through 9 states on the way between Lincoln and Chapel Hill. So that was going to be a Herculean effort to get there, I think.
I think they call that the scenic route in the industry, taking the scenic route there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Michael Bruns, Huskers 24/7 Sports. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it, buddy. Be well. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Once again, great stuff there from Michael Bruns here on the Morning Blitz. Yeah, I think I'd say I've listened and heard a lot of people talk about that Nebraska regional from local pundits to national ones, and there's some people who think that Nebraska has a chance of winning that regional. I don't know. I tell you one thing I know: Oklahoma has got some unbelievable starting pitching. That's the first team they play on Friday. This Kyron Witherspoon. I mean, this guy has got like 5 plus pitches with like 97-mile-an-hour fastball and stuff. It'll be a challenge. It will be a challenge. You got to hope that this late season momentum, this late season surge continues. That's going to be the biggest thing that might help carry Nebraska possibly to a regional win. We'll see. But I think it's a long, long way to go, because that's Oklahoma, just the 2 seed. That doesn't count North Carolina, who's also got good pitching as well. But we'll find out more on Friday. We'll try to talk K-State baseball a little bit later on this week, and get you an update from one of the K-State experts talking about what the Wildcats have in store for them as they head down to Austin, Texas for their regional here on starting Friday. All right, let's get to our final break. We'll come back and wrap things up here on a Wednesday. That's next here on the Morning Blitz.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 25 Chevy Silverado 1500 with 0.9% APR for 60 months plus $3,500 trade-in cash. Or choose a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max, 0.9% APR, or up to over $7,800 off if you own a GMC or Buick. And don't forget, military members get an extra $750 cash allowance. It's happening now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Online at hurlchev.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
May is Beef Month. Hi, this is Jill at the Farmer State Bank of Oakland. We are proud to celebrate the hardworking men and women behind one of our region's most vital industries. We see the early mornings, the long days, and the dedication it takes to raise quality beef, and we say thank you. Your work keeps beef on our tables and our local economy thriving. So here's a special salute to you, our local cattle producers, during Beef Month. The Farmer State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
The Burlington Home Store has a yard work center. They're your garden center, everything you need. Home construction and repair, plus a great line of cleaning supplies and appliances for your home. Burlington Home Store, your full-service lumber yard. You'll need hand and power tools, too. They've got them. By your windows, storm doors, screens, maybe even a barbecue grill. All at your Burlington Home Store, West Burlington. And the staff knows how to help you. And they will, too, at the Burlington Home Store.
From the locker room to your morning commute, it's all sports, all the time.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport!
On the Morning Blitz.
Tell you what, it's been a tough stretch, as we all know, for the Rockies, but the Royals hitting a little bit of a skid as well here in late May. Last night, the Rockies had the Cubs on the ropes. They really did. They were leading, and they got it. A really nice solo homer, I think it was in the 7th, right, from Brenton Doyle. Tied the game up at 2. Then we'd go into extra innings, get to the top 11th. Doyle would ground out to second, but drive in Ezekiel Tovar, and the Rockies had a 3-2 lead. The problem is the bullpen couldn't hold it. A single to left, put a guy, tied the game up in the bottom 11 for the Cubs, and then the rookie, I think it's Michael Shaw. Is that how you say his name? I think it's Michael Shaw. Could be wrong on that. Double check on that. Matt Shaw, sorry. Goes up there and big hit for the Cubs. Clutch hit. Little blooper out towards right field down the line and able to win it for the Cubs 4-3. Herman Marquez was very good yesterday for the Rockies. 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, both earned 6 strikeouts, but losing effort there for the Rockies, who have now lost 0-18 in series and have lost 21 consecutive series going back to last year. Golly, painful. Absolutely painful. Royals also losing last night, 7-2, the final score. The return of Brady Singer to the K. He was great. He improved to 6-3 with 7 innings worked, 7 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk for Singer. It was kind of a Johnny Holstaff day for the Royals. Lynch got the start, went 2 2/3, gave up a run on 3 hits. Just 2 massive home runs from Ellie De La Cruz. And not to forget about Tyler Stevenson, the designated hitter. He had another home run. That's, I think, is that 3 home runs in the last 2 games against the Royals? He's been unbelievable. De La Cruz had 2 yesterday that were just absolute tanks, including one that landed on the second deck of the Fountains. I mean, it was an absolute gargantuan swing from Ellie De La Cruz as Cincinnati wins 7-2. And the Royals, as I mentioned, a little bit of a skid here as of late, as they have lost 4 of their last 5. After taking 2 out of 3 from the Giants, they have dropped 4 out of their last 5, losing series to the Twins and to the Reds. They'll try to avoid a sweep of the Cincinnati Reds here tonight. That game's scheduled for 6:40 Central Time. Rockies and Cubs play Game 3 of their 4-game set up there in the Windy City. That is at 6:05 Mountain Time, of course. AM 730 KLU, the place to go for the Royals. Sorry, for the Rockies, I beg your pardon. AM 790 KXXX for the Royals. Your local radio stations to catch those games. And an update from the NBA playoffs. The Pacers take a commanding 3-1 lead over the Knicks. They win 130-121. Tyrese Halliburton is cementing himself as one of the best players in the NBA. 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 boards. Historical triple-double for Tyrese Halliburton, as I call him, the most clutch player in the NBA. Right now, he is just stuffing the stat sheet while he does that. Gets the win over the Knicks, whose backs are squarely against the wall. Same thing can be said in the NHL playoffs for the Dallas Stars, who lose last night 4-1 to the Edmonton Oilers, and they are on the brink of elimination at this point in time. So game 5 is coming up tonight I'm going to double check that, but I believe on the schedule. Game 5 tonight in the NBA playoffs between the T-Wolves and the Thunder. That is set for 7:30 Central, 6:30 Mountain Time. You can watch that on ESPN. So we could possibly see, with an OKC win, an advancement into the NBA Finals, where they will more than likely beat the Pacers, barring just a miraculous comeback from the Knicks. All right, on to the walk-off.
High drive, deep left,
First play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
Well, the Denver Broncos will honor one of their all-time greats this fall. Demaryius Thomas going to be inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame this season on October 19th when Denver hosts the New York Giants. Of course, Thomas tragically passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 33 due to a seizure disorder. 9 seasons with Denver, ranked second in franchise history in receiving yards, third in catches. He was a top 5 Pro Bowler and a key part of the Broncos Super Bowl 50 championship team. Of course, great listener Michael says the Walter Penner Group did DT good. He got in as a first-time ballot for the Ring of Fame. Rest in peace, DT. But yeah, I would agree. He was a good one, really good one. He was a part of the big turnaround for the Broncos. Remember how bad they stunk before they got Manning, and then DT was there, and just it all seemed to click with that. So, and then of course, even some Tim. Yeah, they even tried Tim Tebow with DT, but that didn't work either. But anyway, a Broncos Ring of Honor, Ring of Famer, going to be Demaryius Thomas here this season. Also, I saw yesterday, one of my favorite things growing up as a kid, still is this day, is the NCAA Football 26 coming out, second year of the game's return, and the cover is out. And you'll see 2 of the best wide receivers in college football donning the front with Ryan Williams of Alabama and Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State. I see K-State's flag is up there. I did see on the deluxe edition, though, they did have a Nebraska fan holding his license plate that said Beat CU from like the 90s. That was pretty cool. I did like that. That was cool. All right, that'll do it for our show today. We're back again tomorrow on a Thursday. Hope you'll join us then. Have a great day. This is The Blitz.
Rocket 102.5 is KKCI, Goodland, Colby, Burlington. This is where classic rock legends take flight. Rocket.